June 1st, 2019, Madison Square Garden, New York City. The iconic arena stood like a cathedral of dreams, its lights blazing against the dark Manhattan sky. Inside, more than 20,000 fans packed every corner, their voices roaring like thunder, their flags waving proudly. This was supposed to be the night the British superstar, Anthony Joshua, made his grand American debut. A night where the undefeated champion would conquer the United States and cement his legacy. With 22 wins, 21 knockouts, and 3 heavyweight belts, WBA, WBO, IBF, Joshua walked into the Garden as a living titan. His chiseled physique, towering 6'6" frame, and knockout power made him look unbeatable. But across the ring stood a man most people underestimated, Andy the Destroyer Ruiz Jr., a soft-spoken fighter from Imperial Valley, California. Ruiz wasn't supposed to be here. He had stepped in on just 5 weeks' notice after Joshua's original opponent withdrew. The boxing world mocked his physique, doubted his, and predicted an easy night for the British king. Yet behind Ruiz's calm demeanor was a fighter forged by hunger, sacrifice, and relentless drive. As the ring walks began, the Garden exploded with energy. Joshua entered first, surrounded by blinding lights, his face focused but confident. Ruiz followed, quiet and composed, wearing the look of a man who carried the weight of a dream to become the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion. The announcer's booming voice echoed through the arena, introducing the fighters, the trainers, the stakes. The referee gave final instructions, and for a moment, time froze. The bell was about to ring, and with it, the fate of 2 warriors, one destined for glory, the other hungry to steal it. Nobody knew the world of boxing was seconds away from one of its greatest shocks. The opening rounds were tense, filled with measured aggression. Joshua established his jab early, his long reach controlling distance as Ruiz searched for openings. The champion looked sharp, firing stiff rights to the body and quick hooks upstairs. Ruiz, shorter and stockier, kept his guard high, stalking patiently, waiting for his chance. Then came round 3, the round that would change boxing forever. Joshua unleashed a thunderous left hook, followed by a perfectly timed uppercut. Ruiz staggered, his balance shattered, and fell to the canvas. The Garden erupted. The crowd screamed, commentators shouted, and Joshua raised his gloves, convinced the fight was already his. But as the referee counted, Ruiz calmly rose, his eyes clear, his spirit unbroken. Joshua smelled blood and rushed forward to finish it, and that's when Ruiz struck back. With lightning speed, Ruiz exploded with a blistering left-right combination, the kind you wouldn't expect from a heavyweight of his size. A left hook to the jaw, a short right to the temple, and suddenly, the unthinkable happened. Anthony Joshua hit the canvas. The crowd gasped, stunned into silence for a split second before erupting into chaos. Joshua got up, but his legs wobbled, his balance gone. Ruiz, smelling opportunity, turned predator. Seconds later, he swarmed the champion with another furious barrage, and Joshua crumbled again before the bell saved him. In a single round, the narrative had flipped. The supposed mismatch had become a war. The Garden was on fire, fans screaming in disbelief, analysts scrambling to process what they were witnessing. Andy Ruiz Jr., the underdog, mocked for his physique, had just knocked down the undefeated heavyweight king twice in 1 round. The momentum had shifted. The storm had begun. The middle rounds became a brutal test of will, stamina, and heart. Joshua came out for round 4, looking to re-establish control, pumping his jab, circling away, trying to reset the rhythm. But Ruiz had tasted his power, and he wasn't afraid anymore. Every time Joshua jabbed, Ruiz slipped inside, firing blistering, 3-punch combinations with shocking speed for a heavyweight. The champion's corner shouted for composure, urging him to box smart. But Ruiz's relentless pressure began breaking him down. Ruiz dug vicious shots into Joshua's ribs, forcing him backward, and every time Joshua tried to answer, Ruiz fired back twice as fast. The crowd sensed it. The invincible Anthony Joshua was slowly unraveling. By round 5, Joshua's legs looked heavy, his head movement sluggish. Ruiz, surprisingly fresh, kept cutting off the ring, trapping the champion against the ropes and letting his hands go in bursts of power and precision. Every clean shot Ruiz landed drew screams from the crowd, while Joshua's counters grew weaker, his confidence draining. Joshua's aura of dominance, built over years of knockouts, was gone. He was no longer the hunter. He was the hunted. Ruiz, once underestimated, had transformed into the destroyer his nickname promised. His timing was razor sharp, his combinations unpredictable, his self-belief unshakable. By the end of round 6, Joshua returned to his corner, breathing heavily, his chest heaving, his corner frantically icing his neck and barking instructions. Across the ring, Ruiz sat calmly, eyes locked on the champion, knowing he had broken his rhythm, his spirit, and his will. The Garden could feel it. Something historic was brewing. The impossible was no longer impossible. Round 7. The bell rang, and Ruiz came out like a man possessed. Joshua tried to fight behind his jab, but his legs betrayed him, his movements sluggish. Ruiz slipped inside effortlessly, launching a blistering left hook that rocked Joshua's head backward. The crowd exploded as Ruiz sensed the finish was near. Joshua fired back desperately, trying to hold his ground, but Ruiz wouldn't be denied. He ripped rapid-fire hooks and straights, a storm of punches that overwhelmed the champion. Then it happened. Joshua hit the canvas for the 3rd time. Madison Square Garden shook with chaos. Fans screaming, commentators shouting over each other, and Joshua's corner shouting frantically for him to hold on. Joshua rose, but his balance was gone. Ruiz pressed forward, eyes locked, heart pounding, throwing with everything he had. Seconds later, a crushing right hand sent Joshua down for the 4th time. The champion climbed up slowly, leaning against the ropes, sweat dripping, mouth open, high, his chest heaving like a man drowning in deep water. The referee asked if he wanted to continue. Joshua spat out his mouthpiece, leaned back into the corner, and gave no answer. In that frozen moment, the dream had ended. The referee waved his arms. It was over. Andy Ruiz Jr., the 25-1 underdog, the fighter no one believed in, had just knocked out the undefeated Anthony Joshua to become the heavyweight champion of the world. The crowd was in shock, cameras flashing, fans screaming, commentators calling it the biggest upset in modern heavyweight history. Joshua walked back to his corner, stunned, while Ruiz dropped to his knees, tears pouring down his face. He had climbed boxing's tallest mountain and conquered it. The aftermath was surreal. Andy Ruiz Jr., the man mocked for his shape, doubted by analysts, dismissed by fans, stood in the center of Madison Square Garden as the new WBA, IBF, and WBO heavyweight champion. The belts were strapped around his waist, and the crowd erupted in chants of Ruiz, Ruiz, Ruiz. Cameras flashed endlessly, capturing a moment that would live forever in boxing history. For Ruiz, it was more than just a win. It was redemption. Years of hard work, rejection, and doubt had led to this night. He had become the first ever Mexican heavyweight champion, carrying his heritage proudly on his shoulders. Across the ring, Anthony Joshua stood silent, humbled, and heartbroken. The king had fallen. Analysts immediately compared the fight to Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson, one of the greatest upsets ever. But Ruiz's victory wasn't just about shocking the world. It was about proving that greatness isn't defined by appearances, expectations, or odds. The boxing world had a new hero, a man who showed that heart, speed, and belief could overcome size, hype, and power. Fans celebrated across Mexico, the US, and around the world, hailing Ruiz as a symbol of perseverance and pride. For Joshua, the loss marked a turning point, forcing him to rebuild and reclaim his throne in a future rematch. But nothing, not even redemption, could erase what happened on that historic night. June 1st, 2019 would forever be remembered as the night the heavyweight division was turned upside down. The night the underdog became the champion. The night Andy the Destroyer Ruiz Jr. shocked the world.